Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about standard form, which is another version of slope. So our essential question is, how can you describe the graph of the equation ax plus by equals c? So get that written down, and then we will talk a little bit more about standard form. So the equation for standard form is actually ax plus by equals c, but what it also means is that a or b can't be 0. Okay? So that is standard form. So it's ax plus by equals c, where a and b cannot be 0. And then a hint for you, any linear equation can be written in standard form. Okay? So you can write any linear equation in standard form, and it's when ax plus by equals c and a and b are not 0. So get that written down. I'm actually going to chunk my notes, and we're going to go on to a different part. We're going to talk about graphing. Now, we're going to talk about how to graph in standard form, but I'm going to give you two different ways to do this, okay? So option 1 is actually writing it in slope-intercept form. So we're just going to say, write in slope-intercept form, okay? So that is option 1. So I'm going to give you guys an equation, and we're actually going to write it in slope-intercept form, so we'll go over those steps, and then we'll graph it, okay? Alright, so here's our equation. Negative 2x plus 3y equals negative 6. So what we need to do is we need to put it in slope-intercept form. So that means we're going to write some reminders. Solve for y. And then we also want to remember, use the inverse operations. Okay? So that way we know we need to solve for y, we need to use the inverse operations. And if you want to write yourself a reminder to use the mirror, as whatever happens on one side happens on the other, you can. Okay? So let's look at this problem. We have negative 2x plus 3y equals negative 6. And we know we need to solve for y. So our first step is to get rid of a negative 2x. The opposite of a negative is a positive, or the inverse. So we do that on both sides. Bring down what you have. Remember, the x goes first. That's a negative 6. Okay? Now your next step is to get rid of this 3 by the y. Remember, when they're right next to each other, they are being multiplied, or like we say, married. And to get rid of that, we need to divorce them or divide them. And whatever you do on one side, you do to everything on the other side. That's why I put a 3 under both of them as a reminder that if you're dividing, everything on this side gets divided by that number. So then you get y equals 2/3 x minus 2. And now you have it in slope-intercept form. Okay? So make sure you have that, and then we will go on to graphing it. I want to make sure that you have it written down in slope-intercept form first, though. So we have our equation, I have my graph, and now we need to actually graph it. So we want to remember what the slope is and the y-intercept. So our slope is 2/3. That means we rise 2, we run 3, and our y-intercept is negative 2, so that means we start at 0, negative 2. So we start at 0, negative 2, and slope says rise 2, so up 2 over 3. So that is our line. Rise 1, 2, run 1, 2, 3, start at 0, negative 2. Okay? So make sure you guys have that one, and then I'm going to give you one to try on your own. So if you need to pause it, whatever you need to do to make sure you have all this information down. Alright, so here's your on your own example. I want you guys to try this just how we did it. So solve it for y, put it in slope-intercept form, and then I want you to graph it, okay? So it's 2x plus y equals 5. I drew my little graph. Pause the video, try it on your own, and then come back and look at my answer, okay? So do it on your own, come back and check your work. Alright, so now that you have your answer, let's check it. I know I need to get y alone, so I'm going to subtract 2x on both sides. So y equals negative 2x plus 5. A lot of people have been asking, hey, where did that plus sign come from? Well, if you look at this number, that is a positive 5. Because it's positive, we use the plus sign to represent that. If it was a negative 5, that would have been a negative. Okay? So now that I have that, I need to actually put it on the graph. So again, remember, your slope is what's in front of the x, so rise over run. So this is saying go down 2 over 1. And that's my y-intercept, saying I need to start at 0, 5. So I'm going to start at 0, 5. And my slope says go down 2 over 1, so I'll count down 2 over 1. Now, you don't have to do it the whole way like I did. I just did that because it's easier for me to draw a straighter line through them. Okay? So that is the first way of doing it. That is how we solve standard form. We put it in slope-intercept form. Okay? But now I'm going to give you a different way. So double check you have all this written down. And then I would chunk your notes so we can talk about the different way of solving standard form. Okay, so this time I'm actually going to show you option number 2, and this option is finding the intercepts, okay? So that means we're going to find the x-intercept and the y-intercept. So what that means is you're going to plug in 0 for x and y to solve. So let me give you an example. We have x plus 3y equals negative 3, okay? So what that means is you plug in 0 for x to find the y-intercept. And this you should already know because this is what we do on slope-intercept form, okay? So that's what we're going to do. We're going to plug in 0 for x and get the y-intercept. So 0 goes in for x, and then we bring down the rest of the problem. Well, 0 plus anything is just that number. So we just have 3y equals negative 3. To get rid of multiplication, you divide, so y equals negative 1. So because we plugged in 0 for x, this ordered pair is 0, negative 1. Okay, so to review, you plug in 0 for x to find the y-intercept, put 0 in for x, solve it. Once you get your answer, you put it in an ordered pair. Okay, so now we're going to do the opposite, and we're going to plug in 0 for y to find the x-intercept. Okay, so that means we're going to take x plus 3 times y equals negative 3. Well, anything times 0 is 0, so we have x plus 0 equals negative 3, which if you're not adding anything, that just means x equals negative 3. So that ordered pair would be negative 3, 0. Okay? So make sure you guys have that written down. While you're doing that, I'm going to draw my little graph. Okay. So hopefully you guys remember that when we are looking for the intercepts, it's where it crosses the axis. Okay? So what that means is where it's going to hit that x-axis and that y-axis. And I know that's a point of confusion because a lot of times you guys mix that up. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're actually just going to plot the two intercepts we found. So this is the y-intercept. That means it's going to be on the y-axis. So it's at 0, negative 1. So you stay at 0, go down 1. This right here is the x-intercept. So that's going to be where it hits the x-axis. So that's at negative 3, 0. And then you just connect them. And right there you just graphed. Okay? So that's another way of graphing standard form. Okay, so pause it, make sure you guys get it, and then I'm going to give you one more on your own just to make sure you guys understand this so that you are able to work on your homework. Okay, so this is on your own. I want you guys to graph this by using the x and the y intercepts, okay? So that means you need to go back, review what we just did, and make sure you understand how to solve using the x-intercept and the y-intercept. So pause the video, and then come back and check your answer. Make sure you try it on your own, though. Well, I hope that you tried it on your own. So it was x plus 3y equals 6. So I solved for my x-intercept, which means I plugged in 0 for y. 3 times 0 is 0, so x equals 6. So my ordered pair is 6, 0. And then over here, I solved for the y-intercept, so I plugged in 0 for x. So 0 plus 3y equals 6. Well, that's just 3y equals 6. Divide both sides by 3, so y equals 2. So that would be 0, 2. And then all I did was take these 2 points and plot them. 0, 2 would be 0, 2. 6, 0 would be 6, 0. Connect them. And now I have plotted it. Okay? So that is how you graph it. So I showed you 2 different ways, so hopefully that is a little more helpful. And remember, you guys are working on your homework. Use your notes because they're a really good reference for you.